You can buy enough seeds to start 20 tomato plants for the price of one tomato start. Or you can buy enough seeds to start 100 lettuce plants for the price of one 6-pack of lettuce starts. I enjoy starting from seed so much that every year I start extra so I can give them away, and I'm still saving money. Welcome back, casual gardeners. This is part 12 of the Frequently Asked Questions gardening series, and today we're answering the question, how do I start seeds indoors? This isn't the only time I've made a video on this topic, but it is the one video on this topic that goes in this series. So I'll be sure to link you to another one at the end of this video. By the end of this video, you'll know what equipment you need, proper planting methods, how to grow strong seedlings, and how to harden them off. Some seeds are better to start indoors. The best seeds to start indoors are long season crops like tomatoes and peppers. You may also choose to start any seed that could use a head start before your last frost. There are also some seeds that are best direct sown, right where you want to grow them, because they don't transplant very well. Some examples of those are going to be carrots and turnips, beans, and even though I'm starting some right now, radishes. So here's a very basic list of supplies you'll want to have ready when you start seeds indoors. You want containers, you want seed starting mix, you want some seeds, you want water, you need light. Everything else is extra, but that doesn't mean you won't benefit from extra. For containers, you can use small seed trays, yogurt or sour cream cups, small pots, or my very favorite, soil blocks. Ooh. Just make sure that whatever you use has drainage. Poke some holes in those yogurt cups. Seeds will start in just about any soil, as long as you have good soil contact for your seed. Regular potting mix is typically too chunky. You can sieve it though to make seed starting mix. Or you can buy a bag of seed starting mix at your favorite nursery or even big box store. Or, and this is my favorite, you can make your own seed starting mix by using 2 parts peat moss or cocoa coir, 1 part perlite or vermiculite, and 1 part bagged compost. I like to use bagged compost for my seed starting mix because you generally get a smaller particle size. If you wanted to, though, you can sieve your homemade compost and use that instead. Many beginner seed starters will find plenty of light in a south-facing window, but that's not always going to be enough. Seeds are going to need 12 to 16 hours of direct light every day once they've germinated, and in some latitudes you're not going to have that if you're starting before your last frost. Without that minimal light, your seedlings are going to get weak and spindly, and that's no good. If your window isn't going to be enough, you can get a light. You're just starting seeds, so what light you get isn't as important as everybody says. It's gonna move outside where the very best light ever is the sun. So you can invest in just any old super cheap, super bright shop light and use that for your seed germination station. It'll seem like your light is way too bright, but that's just because it's indoors and you're contrasting it with indoor light levels. The typical home is like the entrance of a cave. It's super shady, and I'm not just saying that because my home is sketch. So even though if it looks bright, it will not be even a fraction of as bright as sunlight is. So let's go over the basics of starting and caring for your seedlings. First, you want to know when to start your seeds. The very best way to find out when you should start your seeds in your climate is to consult with one of your local nurseries. The online sources and YouTube videos and all of that stuff is not going to have information specific to your climate. The second best way to figure it out is to consult the information on your seed packet. Every seed packet is going to give you a starting time relative to your last frost date. And I'll try to remember to post a link down in the description to a website that you can go to and enter your zip code in to find out what your last frost date is. Your last frost date is an average value, so you can still have frost after that date. So make sure you're checking the weather before you plant anything out. The third best way, and I found that I've had to do that in this new garden, even though I'm a relatively experienced gardener, is trial and error. There are just going to be some things about your climate, or your microclimate even, right where your garden is, that are going to be unique to your garden. So it might be better to start a week or 3 sooner or later even than your nursery tells you to, and that's okay. Trial and error really helps you hone in on what you specifically need for your specific garden. How do you start those seeds once it's time to start them? You're going to want to fill your pot or your yogurt container gently with soil. You don't want to compact it too much because those baby seedling roots may struggle to penetrate compacted soil. Plant your seeds at the depth recommended on the seed packet. Sometimes that depth is super important. For instance, lettuce has to be planted so that light can still reach the seedling. It needs light to germinate. This is lettuce from last year. Other seeds like peas or spinach or beets can be planted a little bit deeper because they don't need that light. Also, you're going to gain experience starting seeds just as you do you. And you might find other things that are specific to how you start seeds that are best for you. And that's okay too. Water your seeds in once you've planted your seeds. I actually prefer to start with pre-moistened soil because when you water your seeds in, you can actually compact that soil a little bit. So if you've moistened it before you put your seeds in, you can just put your seeds in and they're watered in once you've patted it down to make good soil contact. If you need to add additional water before your seeds have germinated or even after your seeds have germinated, bottom watering is best. So if you've got a yogurt container you've started your seeds in, you want some sort of tray under your yogurt container to pour the water in. Seed trays actually come with a tray. It's in the name, so you're good. Water into the bottom of that. So you can leave one cell empty and pour the water into that cell if you want to, and then that will spread out and water the other cells. Plus you can look down into the bottom of the cell and be like, I don't see any more water. Maybe I should drop some more water in there. Usually it's okay when you're starting seeds if there's a little bit of standing water. It's also a really great idea to keep your seed trays or your yogurt cups or whatever covered until you get germination. If you have a humidity dome that fits your tray, you can use that, and that's awesome. And then you just pull it off once you've got about 50% germination. If you are growing in yogurt cups or a tray that doesn't fit a humidity dome, you can just lay a piece of plastic wrap over the top. You're indoors. Wind's not going to blow it off. Whatever you use for a humidity dome, just make sure it's transparent because, as I've said before, some seeds need light to germinate. Some seeds also require heat to germinate, especially if you're starting peppers or tomatoes indoor. You will benefit from a heat mat. Indoor temperatures, especially prior to the last frost, tend to run a little bit chilly for tomato and pepper seeds, so that extra heat from a heat mat is going to help improve your germination. That said, this year I was sick when I started my peppers, and I forgot to put my heat mat underneath them, and they actually came up okay in that spot. So you could still get lucky. Once all of your seeds have germinated, it's actually very important to remove them from the heat mat or unplug the heat mat, because that heat from the bottom can increase evaporation rates and dry them out too quickly. Also, it's weird for your roots to be warmer than your leaves, and some plants don't deal well with that. Make sure you're watering your seedlings correctly. Your seeds will benefit from constant moisture until they germinate, but once they've germinated, those roots need oxygen to keep from suffocating. They can't do photosynthesis down in the soil. They breathe oxygen just like us. In these smaller containers, or even in seed blocks, providing the right amount of water could be a little bit tricky because you want to provide enough water that the soil remains moist for those tender seedlings, but you also need there to be air spaces in the soil. Too much water will fill up all the gaps in the soil and smother your plants. So what you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to check your seeds every day. Make sure you're adding enough water to keep the soil moist, but not so much water that you're driving out all the air. As I've stated earlier, you are going to want to bottom water if at all possible. Reducing soil compaction means you get to keep more of those little spaces for air and water to fill up and keep your seedlings going. If you're like me and you like growing in soil blocks, you will notice that your soil dries out faster and you need to leave them in standing water more often, but that's not going to matter because you actually have air penetration from 5 sides. So you're good. I don't know if you heard that. That was the Life Flight helicopter going directly over my garden. I live near a hospital. Airflow isn't just important in your soil, you're going to need it around, the leaves of your plants too. You can have success starting indoors without good airflow, but you will have better success if you have good airflow. Right now, I have a ceiling fan in the room that I like to start seeds in, and I just make sure the fan is running all the time. If you don't have a ceiling fan, you might want to set up an oscillating fan so that it blows on and off your seed trays as your seedlings are growing. That'll generate a variable wind that will help strengthen those developing stems for you. Without adequate airflow, you are going to be at a higher risk of damping off, which is a fungal infection of your seedlings and pretty much always results in the death of the plant. Right after your seedlings germinate, they're going to get all the nutrients they need from the food stores in the seed itself. However, once your seedlings have developed their first true leaves, you're going to do well to feed those seedlings. You can use your favorite liquid fertilizer diluted to 1/2 or 1/4 strength, depending on how brave you want to be. So the faster your seedlings grow, the stronger your fertilizer should be. And just start adding that as you water your seedlings. You will want to be careful not to over fertilize. Your liquid fertilizers are not slow release and they can burn your plants. When the time is right, your seedlings will graduate to the school of hard knocks. It's time to move them outside. We call this graduation ceremony hardening off. On day 1, place your seedlings outside somewhere shady for about an hour, and then take them back inside. Even in the shade, they're going to get more light than they're used to, and also the air movement and air humidity is going to be different. So they're adapting to that, but not too much. On day 2, give them a little bit more light and leave them out for a little bit more time. Do that again on day 3, more light, more time. Day 4, more light, more time. Harden them off for 7 to 10 days, depending on how easy you want to take it. I often get impatient and I'll shorten it to about 5 days, and mostly I've been lucky. But the more gentle you are when you harden off your plants, the more successful you will be in failing to set them back when you transplant them out. I also, though, I have a slight advantage by growing in a greenhouse. The greenhouse is a lot closer to the light levels and humidity levels that are found outside. My plants will harden off a fair bit here in the greenhouse. If you don't harden off right, you can still transplant successfully, but you may set your plants back like 2 to 3 weeks. Let's talk briefly about common problems you may have and what could be causing them. Number 1 is going to be leggy seedlings. Almost everyone who's not starting in a greenhouse is going to have leggy seedlings. This is caused by insufficient light levels. Make sure that your light is as close as it can get to your seedlings without burning them, and make sure that your light is very bright. You can get moldy soil. This is typically caused by keeping your humidity levels too high around the soil or having too many nutrients in the seed starting soil. A lot of seed starting soil is nutrient poor by design to help prevent that initial mold. A lot of the mold we'll get in soil is actually not going to harm the seedlings, but some of it will. If you have poor germination, you're going to want to check, do I have good seed contact with the soil? Is the soil consistently moist enough? Are the seeds at the correct depth? Are these seeds that need light to germinate, and are they getting that light? And then finally, do these seeds need warm soil to germinate? Or even is my temperature correct? So for example, if I was starting lettuce seedlings on a heat mat, for some reason, they're going to germinate less well than if I start lettuce seedlings at room temperature. Meanwhile, my tomato and pepper seedlings are going to germinate better on the heat mat than at room temperature. Some seeds benefit from cooler temperatures at germination and some from warmer temperatures at germination. You may notice some seedlings kind of kinking and falling over at the soil line. This is classic damping off. That's the fungal infection that I mentioned earlier. If your seedling damps off, just remove that seedling. It's done. Last month, I started over 200 plants from seed. And this month, this is March, I'm going to be starting probably 200 more. But you should avoid the temptation to jump into starting seeds at the volume I'm doing. Start small with just a few seed varieties and learn to do those well. You can increase the number of seeds that you start each year as you become more comfortable with the process. Starting with just a few seed types allows you to learn those variables for those seeds, and then you can add some seeds every year and learn how to do them. I wish you luck on your seed starting journey. Make sure you comment with any tips or advice that you think I missed or any that I did give and you disagree with. A discussion in the comments actually can help everybody learn. Make sure you help me out by liking this video if you liked it and subscribing to my channel before you go. And remember, I'm going to provide a link to another video about seed starting at the end of this one. Thank you so much for joining me here in my garden today. I hope you have a wonderful time in your own.